The last effect we are going to discuss is the scattering of light in the atmosphere. We have all had the experience of walking into a dark room only to see a single beam of light hitting the floor. We are able to see small dust particles in this beam of light. You may have noticed that if there is no dust in the atmosphere, it is very difficult to see this beam. This effect becomes especially clear if you try to use a laser pointer on a clear night. You cannot actually see the beam of the laser or where it is going. On the other hand, that same beam becomes much more visible on a foggy night or a dusty night. What you are observing here is a phenomenon called the scattering of light. We think of air as a homogeneous medium, but in reality it is a highly heterogeneous mixture containing all types of particles like dust, pollen, grains of sand, each of these particles having its own size and internal properties. These particles suspended in the air medium scatter light in different ways. You have seen an example of this where you send a beam of light through a suspension of milk in water. This kind of scattering of light caused by small to medium-sized particles has a name. It is known as the Tyndall effect. And the Tyndall effect makes it possible to see these beams of light traversing through the atmosphere. Another effect of the scattering of light is the perceived color of the sky. Earth is fortunate to have a beautiful blue sky, but how often do we wonder why does the sky appear blue? The reason for this is the atmospheric composition of the Earth and the dust particles in it are scattering some colors more than others. For example, in the case of the Earth, the blue and violet portions of the spectrum get scattered more than the redder portions of the spectrum. And it is this scattered blue light which is reaching our eyes. And that is why we perceive the sky to be colored blue. On a different planet with a different atmospheric composition, the color of the sky will be very different. For example, on the surface of Mars, which has an atmosphere almost completely composed of carbon dioxide, the perceived color of the sky is actually red. The last effect we will discuss is the perceived color of the sun during sunset. Ask any child what is the color of the sun, and it is likely that the child will say yellow. This is a misconception. The sun is actually generating bright white light, but the color that we perceive for the sun varies depending on the time of day, and there is a very good reason for this. You will notice that the sun looks whitish or yellowish during midday. If you look at the adjoining figure, you notice that the light has to traverse through only a very small layer of atmosphere at midday. This means that the bluer parts of the spectrum are not scattered much because the light is not traveling through much atmosphere. As a result, we see a whitish or yellowish sun. Things are very difficult in the early morning and during dusk because the light from the sun is now entering the atmosphere much more tangentially. So the light is now traveling through a much larger amount of atmosphere, which causes more of the blue color to be scattered. Red is the least scattered color. Remember, the larger the wavelength of light, the less it gets scattered. And since red is the least scattered color here, it traverses through the atmosphere most easily, and as a result, we perceive a red sun. Another reason we use red as a warning color is, first of all, we associate red with blood, which is itself a signal for danger. But from a physical standpoint, less disperses or scatters very little. So a red warning sign is clearly visible even from a far distance.